In this video, we will learn about the urinary system, which consists of the kidneys, ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. The urinary system is a party, and urine invited.
The kidney is a bean-shaped structure located on the dorsal wall enclosed by the renal capsule. It is composed of a renal cortex and a renal medulla. Adipose capsule surrounds the kidney to provide protection.
There are three important structures in the kidney: medullary pyramids, renal columns, and calyces. The medullary pyramids are triangular regions of tissue in the medulla. The renal columns are extensions of cortex-like material. The calyces are cup-shaped structures that tunnel urine toward the pelvis. If you want to see a real kidney, you're in luck!
The kidney's main function is to regulate water volume, composition of pH, and remove metabolic wastes.
Nephrons are the structural and functional units of the kidneys. Each nephron consists of a renal corpuscle and renal tubules. The renal corpuscle is made up of a glomerulus, which is a tuft of capillaries, and the glomerular capsule, a thin-walled, sap-like structure that surrounds the glomerulus. The nephron consists of Bowman's capsule, proximal convoluted tubule, the loop of Henle, and distal convoluted tubules. We'll explain this in more detail later in the video. Cortical nephrons have relatively short nephron loops and are only found in the cortex. Juxtamedullary nephrons have corpuscles that extend deep into the medulla. They help regulate water balance.
Urine formation depends upon three stages: filtration, reabsorption, and secretion. These processes are pretty complicated, so don't get pissed off if you're a little confused. Filtration is a passive action that allows water and solutes smaller than proteins to move through capillary walls.
The hydrostatic blood pressure pushes the substances through the glomerular capsule and leaves through the renal tubule. The resulting fluid in the renal tubule is called glomerular filtrate.
During filtration, renin is secreted by juxtamedular cells when stimulated by sympathetic nerves and pressure-sensitive cells. Renin reacts with
angiotensinogen
to form angiotensin 1, which makes angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 is a vasoconstrictor that affects both the afferent and the efferent arterioles.
If the afferent arteriole, which brings blood to the glomerulus, vasoconstricts or becomes smaller, the filtration rate decreases. If the efferent arteriole vasoconstricts, however, the filtration rate increases because blood backs up into the glomerulus.
The second step in urinary formation is reabsorption. Low pressure helps enhance absorption through peritubular capillaries. Water, glucose, amino acids, ions, and PCT reabsorb the most. Fun fact! Glucose is secreted in urine when concentration excels renal threshold.
The PCT also reabsorbs creatine, lactic acid, uric acid, ascorbic acids, and phosphate, sulfate, calcium, potassium, and sodium. Remember that whenever sodium concentration is highest, water will follow by osmosis.
The descending limb of loop of Henle is permeable to water, but the ascending limb is not. Sodium enters the ascending limb, but does not enter the descending one.
Last but not least, secretions! Peritubular capillaries flow into renal tubules with hydrogen, potassium, ions, and creatine. Materials in renal tubules move to ureter.
We interrupt this show to provide you with an important message. Urochrome is the yellow pigment of pee. The normal pH is 6, and the average specific gravity is 1.001 to 1.031.
Urea is the byproduct of amino acid catabolism in the liver. It enters the renal tubule through filtration, and only 50% is reabsorbed. The rest is peed out.
Uric acid is the product of metabolism of certain nucleic acids and bases. It is completely reabsorbed, and about 10% ends up in urine.
The ureters are slender tubes that attach the kidney to the bladder. They're continuous with the renal pelvis and enter the posterior aspect of the bladder.
Peristalsis aids gravity in urine transport to the bladder.
The urinary bladder is a muscular sac that stores urine. The structure of the urinary bladder is a trigone with 3 triangular passageways that are sensitive to touch. The openings consist of 2 ureters and 1 urethra.
The urinary bladder wall is just as cool. It is composed of smooth muscles named the detrusor and the mucosa of transitional epithelium. The walls are thick and folded.
The urethra carries urine from the bladder to the outside. Let's talk about the differences in male and female urethras. In males, the urethra is about 20 centimeters long, or 8 inches. It goes through the prostate and the penis. It carries urine and is a path for sperm cells as well.
In females, the urethra is 3 to 4 centimeters long, or 1 inch, and runs along the wall of the vagina. It only carries urine.
The internal urethral sphincter prevents bladder from emptying until pressure within the bladder increases to a certain level. Thus, it's voluntary.
The external urethral sphincter voluntarily controls micturition.
Hey Sarah, why can't you hear pterodactyls going to the bathroom?
I don't know, Teresa, why not?
Because the P is silent.
It's time to class up your vocabulary, kids. Instead of saying pee or peeing, it will now be referred to as micturition.
In order to micturate, both sphincters must be open to expel the urine. The internal sphincter relaxes after stretch, while the external sphincter must be voluntarily relaxed. The muscles involved are the detrusor, abdominal wall, pelvic floor muscles, and the diaphragm.
The hypothalamus regulates the following hormones. Antidiuretic hormone is an electrolyte that prevents excessive urine loss. Aldosterone regulates sodium ion content of extracellular fluids. It is triggered by renin and angiotensin.
Sometimes the urinary system does not function as it should. Polyuria is when a person micturates too much, while oliguria is when a person does not micturate enough. In nephrotic syndrome, there is an unusual amount of protein in the urine as a result of kidney disease.
A test of the urine may illuminate the cause of a disease. For example, the presence of glucose or ketones may point to a diagnosis of diabetes. Some common tests of the urine include pH, specific gravity, proteins, glucose, bilirubin, nitrite,
Leukocytes and blood cells.
Here's a quick summary of what we've learned from this video. The process begins as the blood travels into the afferent arteriole and through the glomerulus. Here, blood components like water and nitrogenous waste move to the inner glomerulus, while non-filterable components exit through the efferent arteriole. The resulting fluid is called filtrate. Next comes the PCT, where glucose, amino acids, ADH, water, aldosterone, and sodium is reabsorbed. Potassium and hydrogen are secreted here.
After the PCT comes the descending limb, where water is reabsorbed. Next, we have the ascending limb, where sodium, potassium, and chloride ions are reabsorbed. This limb is impermeable to water. After the ascending limb comes the DCT, where sodium and water ions are reabsorbed and hydrogen ions are secreted. Finally, in the collecting ducts is where the water is reabsorbed. Now you know every wee bit about the urinary system.
Yay!